A happy Steve there, and rightfully so. 3-0 here for ROCCAT over Giants. Let's quickly recap the game that just happened and the picks and bans there. Another style coming out from the Giants. Once again, something we've seen them trying before in a like poke comp, but just too little. And even with the adaptations, it was clear that ROCCAT was far ahead.
I just think looking at the bans, Giants banned out Shen, Lulu, and Fizz. They need to hit the gym because they can't flex anything right now. And it's so poor because you lose all the pressure. It's bad fun, just had to make it. But if you look at ROCCAT, for example, they put so much pressure in picks and bans because they've shown we can play all these champions, and we can play them in multiple roles. If you want to get rid of them, then you shoot yourself in the foot because we get the OPs anyways. Because ROCCAT on first rotation get Gangplank and a Azir. Trade away then Elise, okay, but you can match that with a Gragas, and suddenly picks and bans are, in my opinion, already over.
And really, this comp here from Giants, it wasn't even like poke. I didn't know what it was. It was like, we have some poke in here on the Israel, then we have some skirmish on the Kalista, and then we have a big frontline tank, but we can't really teamfight at all against what we have on the other side. But we can't poke either because there's too much hard engage, and we can't really win the lane either. So like, I don't know, it was kind of strange. I think in the end, there was like comfort picks. Pepinero, what do you want to play mid? Israel, okay, what do you want to carry? Okay, Kalista is open. Let's see if we can just try and win the early game and take it from there.
I think one of the most frustrating things about watching this pick and ban phase was in every game, there was always something that was like, oh, Giants are just hamstringing their carries. This game, it was a Maokai onto Wirlib. Wirlib's a playmaker. Sure, you can make plays with Maokai, but you need the rest of your team to get ahead. Ezreal going tier means you've got to be very careful about the fights that you do pick and where you do fight. And we saw ROCCAT controlling the early game every game. You were never going to get preferential fights in the early game with a Maokai and an Ezreal on your two playmakers unless somehow ROCCAT give you them.
Also, Giants, this lane swap just didn't work for them. Kalista was 1v1 and Kalista excels as a pick because she works so well with her support. Every 2 hits you do, 12% of the maximum HP disappears. He was playing 1v1. Later on, he got 1v1 by Jankos under the tower. Audrey couldn't get his mark on this game. Godfrey was roaming, not getting anything done. And in the meanwhile, Pepinero versus Nukta, the matchup that we were looking at the start of the day, became ROCCAT versus Pepinero. They just kept killing him over and over and over, and we kind of combined the stats. And over the course of these 3 games, Pepinero went 0-5-1. So he did nothing except die 5 times. This is up to 15 minutes.
Sure.
Whereas Nuktak, he went 7-0-8. He was involved in 15 kills in the first 15 minutes over this 3-game series. So clearly we have a victor in this matchup.
And it wasn't Azir, actually.
It wasn't Azir, twice at least. But very strange just to see how Giants were moving around in the early game. Because again, this, as you said, it's ROCCAT versus Pepinero almost. Where was the help for Pepinero himself?
Yeah.
You know,
team, please.
Godfrey, I think you can learn a lot from watching a support in a lane swap and how good teams are playing lane swaps. He almost looked out of place. Oh, he was too late roaming, or then he was at the wrong side, you know, where suddenly he was sitting top lane with no flash, super overextended, went back, only got boots, 0 wards, and then what is ROCCAT going to do? Walk up and obviously just kill the Maokai and the Alistar at the same time because there's 0 vision. Mid lane, no help coming in from Frederick in terms of vision as well. So Pepinero is just left on his own. He's blind, basically can't see anything, and 5 guys are just standing ready to smack him in the head. It's tough to do anything.
Yeah, but with that, though, the Giants, you still have to remember, of course, is their very first season. They did make playoffs now. So what does this say for you guys? Is this the Giants hitting a wall in the end? Or is this finally ROCCAT showing that they are incredibly prepared for this gauntlet and that maybe some other teams will also have a very hard time stopping them?
I think it's clear ROCCAT are playing to the patch with a lot of their picks. Everything that they're doing in picks and bans seems to be there. Flashes of the skill that we've heard about from ROCCAT. Nukeduck specifically in this series was, his Azir was great. I think ROCCAT are generally on the up. So it's a good sign for ROCCAT fans, but there's not a whole lot of games for them to play like that in the rest of this regional qualifier.
This is a mix. You know, Giants have hit the wall.
Yeah.
Right now, they're not going to get any better as it is on this patch, you know, in this situation. And of course, ROCCAT came in prepared. We mentioned how they have the flex picks, they have Azir, they have all the picks they need in the meta. Is it enough against Origin? Because now your individual skill will get tested a lot more. Steve on Gangplank had an okay performance. I wasn't 100% impressed by it. Compared to what Source showed in the final, I see a big difference, and that's going to matter quite a lot. If Steve can outplay Source, ROCCAT will have a chance.
Yeah, definitely comes down to individual matchups. In addition to the team play, I think ROCCAT looked better, but we can't forget that we're playing for a spot at World Finals right now, so we can't judge these teams just within each other. We need to get to not a world-class level, but good enough to compete for a spot at Worlds. And then Origin showed in the final against Fnatic, yeah, we're the real deal. ROCCAT, I think they took good steps, and it's hard to judge up until you actually get punished for your mistakes. Because everything is easy, especially look at game 1. Giants, they let ROCCAT slowly play the game we compared it to ROCCAT was playing the map in slow motion because they could. There was no pushback. We pointed out just now, whenever they're ganking Pepinero, where was the rest of the Giant squad? No proactivity, no vision control. ROCCAT kind of got their way with the game, and hopefully tomorrow that will be challenged by Origin.
They did, but tomorrow indeed as they face OG, and we're going to hear a little bit about that matchup, but we're going to come back to our discussion in just a minute because QuickShot is standing by on stage for a word with Jankos and Yamato Cannon.
Thank you very much. I am here joined by Jankos and Yamato, and I want to talk about the matchup that you guys have tomorrow, another best of 5 against Origin, a team that many people are calling the second best team in Europe. Yamato, let's start with you and discuss what, in ROCCAT's opinion, are Origin's strengths as a team?
I think individually they are very, very good. I think their strength is the fact that they have very, very few weaknesses. I think it will be a question of who plays better. And I think with the performance we did today, I think we can contest for the world spot.
Well, it definitely seems to be the case. We heard Analyst Desk saying in a moment ago, ROCCAT on the up and up. Strong 3-0 today. Jankos, talking about tomorrow's matchup against Amazing, how different will that be than today's matchup against Frederick?
I mean, Amazing is good. That's the first thing. And Frederick is like just a jungler. So I think overall is going to be much different. And Amazing overall prioritizes helping his teammates over farming jungle. So usually he tries to camp in the bushes and gank a lot and make stuff happen. So I think it's going to be tough for me. I think he's really good lately, and that's it basically. I don't think there is like much for me to prepare against him. Like he plays standard champs and stuff like this. So nothing special, but just very good.
So very good. Feels like you have a strong opinion about specific things he's going to do. Does this come into your preparation, knowing you have 3 best of 5s to play, and if you win one, you have to do another. If you win that, you have to do another. And that's the team that beat you, Unicorns of Love at the end. What's it like preparing for 3 best of 5s in a row?
Well, I don't really care about this. We just prepare kind of step by step. For example, we didn't talk about Origin yet. We'll talk about this now. Because here is the Giants, then it's Origin, and then it's, well, go home or play UL, you know. So I think it's actually pretty fun to prepare like for 3 BO5s. And it's a lot of experience on stage as well, because you play day after day, and then you can warm up one day, and then play some better opponents next day, and it's fun. I like it.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing those better opponents against you guys tomorrow. Origin, of course. Let's turn back to Yamato Cannon and talk about some picks and bans. Analyst Desk was praising picks and bans for ROCCAT all day long, looking at the likes of the Shen, the Lulu, the Fizz, the Azir, everything that is strong in 514 and that gangplank. So how does that come into your preparation against Origin, who have a very similar champion pool, and demonstrates it against Fnatic?
I think there's a very clear difference between like my preparation against Giants and Origin. I think the fact that Origin played against Fnatic, they poured their heart out, played the best they could, played very, very well. I think with that in mind, they showed what they play, they showed all their cards, and they bled, and if it bleeds, you can kill it.
If it bleeds, you can kill it. The man who will be tasked to kill it will be Jankos tomorrow. How much can you learn from watching Origin in the semifinals and the finals to find out whether or not you can actually kill them in the regional qualifier tomorrow?
Well, I don't really think I would learn much from semis. I think overall Fnatic showed pretty strong performance, but I think Fnatic kind of underperformed in those BO5. And obviously, I think Origin, like they are beatable, but I would say they are a better team than we are at this very moment. So we are kind of the underdog coming to the series. So I'm glad about this and see what happens, you know.
It's good to hear a little bit of honesty there, talking about the underdogs, something ROCCAT have struggled with a little bit. Yamato, let's go for one last question, talking about pick and ban strategy. Today, you guys prioritized red side against Giants. We know tomorrow you'll be prioritizing blue side against Origin. What are some of the decision factors when a team opts into either blue or red, and why?
I don't want to reveal too much, but it's a question of what kind of priorities the teams have shown in the past, trends, and also like research in general. And I feel that Origin has just a better champion pool for 5.14, so my priorities get shifted around. I don't want to reveal too much.
That's fair. That's perfectly fair.
Yeah.
I won't ask you to explain more. I just want to congratulate you again on the 3-0 victory. I'm looking forward to the best of 5 tomorrow. Congrats, guys. So to round up the series and the day, we're going to head back over to the Analyst Desk.
Well, thank you so much, QuickShot. Just a reminder, the NALCS's first regional qualifier match between Cloud9 and Gravity will be coming your way in just a little while. Stay tuned. They have to get set up over there. Of course, that gives us time to preview the OG versus ROCCAT match and talk a little bit about this interview. Who plays better will win. Thanks, Yamato, for that one.
Yeah, thank you, Mato, indeed. And thanks to Jankos for saying they haven't really prepared for Origin as a team yet.
Not buying that one.
I don't buy it, but at the same time, you know, in the office this week, we've been kind of alluding to the format like the Elite Four. That felt more like ROCCAT just got the Boulder badge from Pewter City, and now they have to go face Lance straight away, and they haven't even prepared.
Technically, this is not so Elite 4. You know, the Elite 2 are kind of locked in for Worlds already, so we're going...
With the root, the mood.
Yes, not so Elite 4 with like a reverse gym leader setup because the final boss is in round 2 already because that's Origin.
I don't know what you youngsters are talking about.
Where was your childhood,
I know.
Come on.
I know.
Everyone knows Pokemon.
Anyways, TLDR, Jankos claims they haven't prepared for Origin. If that's true, then I think they might have some troubles.
So obviously they've been watching the semifinals, they've been watching the final, so they probably have taken some notes already. I would assume also they're putting in a lot of time this week because they knew they were facing Giants for a long time now, so you could do all your prep for Giants before the final even was played. And then after you look at Origin and say, okay, what if we win against Giants? What do we do? The blue side is very interesting, how blue side, purple side, obviously for ROCCAT. I guess for blue side very often, if everyone plays like the meta picks, you will do more OP bans than direct target bans. But when you're facing like Giants, you ban Jax Morgana almost every game, so that makes the red side a little bit easier because you then get 2 OP picks in the first rotation on red side. That could be a change.
Let's actually take a look because you talk about the meta picks at the picks or what ROCCAT has shown so far and what maybe overlaps with the players on OG, the matchup that we'll be seeing tomorrow. A couple of ones in there. Of course, the Gangplank, no surprise, but some things in there could prove to be an edge for ROCCAT.
So I think Gangplank will almost guarantee be banned out completely unless Steve actually plays the Riven, which is the notorious pseudo counter. We never saw it in action, but we kind of deduced that from picks and bans OG versus Fnatic. But I do like the flex picks because you just hide so much information up until the last rotation of picks, and that kind of nullifies blue side versus red side a tiny bit. However, the one crucial matchup I want to look forward to is the Azir in the mid lane. Expect as Azir was lackluster. Nuketox Azir was solid. And that might be an advantage in picks and bans or just generally in-game for ROCCAT.
Could potentially force Origin to have to ban it away, at least in the start, before they maybe have to adapt to something else because of the fact that Pekka didn't really show up on the champion. But the 5 picks we just saw on the screen could technically be 5 of the bans coming in. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me because, again, these flex picks have so much value. And we have seen what Origin can do when they play around Nils. When he gets on these hyper carries late game, and we know Source is a fantastic Lulu player, it's just such a strong comp for them.
Super strong. You actually took the point I was going to make.
I'm reading your mind.
You're reading my mind. I mean, it's no secret
I
that
am
Origin...
beautiful as well. Thank you very much for thinking that.
You can stop there. I don't want you hearing what's in my head next. But, you know, it's obvious. Niels, he's been played around so well. It was one of the actual strategies that beat Fnatic, and if they can beat Fnatic with it, I wonder what they can do against the likes of ROCCAT, the likes of Unicorns of Love. You got to ban that Lulu, man.
Stay on the Lulu pick, though. ROCCAT hasn't been able to show what they can do in that pick so far in the series. I think it's been banned or picked away in almost every game, or literally every game so far. So we'll have to see, especially in game 1, Origin might leave it open the same way teams have left open Elise in the previous stages of best of 5. Just feel it out, you know. Do you play it? How well do you play it? If you don't, are you afraid of first picking it? Else we'll gladly take it. In that sense, Origin have revealed more information, but they've also shown that they are completely fine playing at least 4 out of these 5 champions. And worst case, put up on a mediocre Azir in the mid lane if they can pinch the remaining champion pool from Nuketox. That is something that has happened in the past as well. Once you figure out what he plays and you take it all away, he was mediocre at best.
And he's normally the guy, he's the guy known for his Lulu play. So if ROCCAT picks it and sends it into the mid lane, is that really too bad for Origin? In the sense that you kind of get him on a utility champion.
You neutralize him.
You neutralize him in that sense. You get a bit of a farm lane for Pekka then in that case, and it becomes a lot about Mr. Rallis, who is a good AD carry, but I don't think he's been at the level of Nils, at least not when it comes to peaking in this split here. So maybe that is a thing for Origin, saying we don't really care too much about you getting the Lulu. I'm not sure, though. I still think it's such a fantastic strong pick.
I think that's interesting because if in some strange world the Lulu does go over and the Gangplank to Steve, if Origin want to test it, we know Soaz can play up against Huni's Gangplank. They may be comfortable playing it as well. That would give them another damage threat. A lot of hypotheticals and weird picks and bans that we don't really expect to be getting all the way through, but it's a very interesting series with such big overlapping champion pools.
Super, super interesting. And as Yamato so eloquently put at the beginning of the show, he's on top on 5.14. Only took him a couple of weeks, even months. So congratulations on that. Moving away from maybe the picks Precisely. Some interesting things coming out of Vander there as well. A lot is going to come down to him and Mithy and shot calling precisely in that. Very interesting thought.
I was a big fan of Vander in this series here. I thought his roaming was spot on. Obviously, the Shen play makes it a little bit easier to roam from time to time because sometimes you just have to click your ulti. But that was a very effective strategy to shut down a split push in compensation the Giants were running. And he is good in terms of vision. We know that all split long. Sometimes we maybe argue he wastes a few wards in there. But the shot calling is the key. I don't think they got challenged against Giants when it came to the shot calling, and that is very different against Origin.
Traditionally, Vander has always loved his sidestone. He was, throughout the split, the earliest sidestone buy of all supports overall. However, I feel like this series, he's used it better. The deep vision was on point. Giants is a relatively easy team to lane swap against because they often make one of those crucial mistakes. However, still props to ROCCAT for playing out their lane swaps relatively well. And then putting that division in between the two lanes they were playing around and then facilitating dives. They multiple times they identified the right objective and went for that, sometimes lacking in execution. But ROCCAT shot calling definitely has improved, and now we can see why they were struggling earlier too. You don't very often get a peek in the mind of a team unless you straight up ask them why was it not so great earlier. He came out and said, yeah, it was Jankos and overpower shot calling first. Me and Jankos had to learn it. And I think progression has been shown by ROCCAT. Then again, they're going up against Mithy and Amazing as a shot-calling duo, which has steadily been progressing throughout the LCS as well. If we go back to their Challenger days, that is night and day.
Right, and as a whole, just the way ROCCAT kind of adapted their play with the vision control, everything, this felt closer to what Yamato was talking about with, you know, playing the right way for ROCCAT. However, how much of that was given to them by Giants in this series, how much of that was led over, I don't think they'll get away with as much against Origin, but it is an improvement for sure.
Yeah, we will see what happens. We also asked on Twitter if anyone could see what the best strategy would be in the regional qualifier, and at that, Hatchap writes, I think the best strategy for the regional qualifier is Origins. Let it just be by far the best team in this tournament strategy, which is quite interesting because all the eyes are on them and thinking that the third seed or the third spot from two worlds is going to come to, or is going to go to Origin. Rather, how will that influence them because they were the better team? They put up a fight against Fnatic, but now you have to prove it tomorrow and the day after possibly.
I mean, obviously they should have a lot of confidence going into this, but at the same time, you might be the best team normally, but it's about what you do on the day. So if they show up and they don't perform against ROCCAT, they can still lose, or against Unicorns of Love on Monday if it is, even though I'm not expecting it. I have to agree with the tweet. It's a good strategy to have. If you can be the best team in the tournament, it should work pretty well for you.
So in the interview, I think it was Jankos who said OG is a bit of a better team than we are, so it's going to come down to the day. If what you've seen from the champion diversity coming out of ROCCAT, if each of their players plays to the maximum of their potential on ROCCAT, is it then still a 50-50?
Ooh, I don't think it goes to 50-50. I still think even then it's kind of like a 60-40 Origin if ROCCAT are playing at their absolute best. ROCCAT have upset Origin before. Yamato wanted Origin in the bracket, if you remember his comments. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. If they are playing to their best, though, it is a close series, and I'm expecting more than 3 games.
Yeah, and who was on his game 100% today at today's series was Nukeduck. He did more than his fair share to bring ROCCAT to round 2 of the tournament with a KDA of 15 at 15 minutes in 3 games. He is our player of the series, Nukeduck. Fantastic Azir, which is definitely something to look at. But in general, good series.
A very good series. I mean, Nukeduck just been stepping up the further we get into this season here. Really become the big playmaker for ROCCAT as a team. Him and Rallis. I mean, Rallis is a very consistent carry as well. But we just got to praise ROCCAT as a team here, setting up Nukeduck so well. I mean, he did a lot, but then also Jankos and Vander so on, always being there to almost feed him the kills.
I haven't done the math exactly, but I wonder what happens if you pinch his champion pool. If you take away 3 of his champions, first pick the 4th one, force him into very predictable patterns in terms of champion picks. That's when Nukeduck has struggled throughout the year. Only when Jay's Varus meta came back into the swing of things, he kind of picked up again and had these stellar performances. His Azir before that wasn't the greatest. He has worked on that. Actually, with the removal of the knockup, his ultis have actually become a lot better. So in that regard, it could be an approach that we see from Origin in addition to just protecting Xpeke in the mid lane. Because that could, in my head, be the only matchup that is maybe slightly tilted towards ROCCAT.
Problem is just if we look at his champion pool that he's shown so far, I mean, we know Victor is there, we know Azir is there, we know Lulu is going to be a pick for him, Fizz as a flex pick for them as a team. So you got already 4 good picks right there you got to get rid of in some way. And then we've seen the Yasuo pick. If Pekka wants to run the poke, like we saw Varus come in as a last pick versus Fnatic. Corki mid. Not expecting that one too much, but it is an option. I mean, he's a guy who's shown at least right now, there's a lot of different champions. But then you got to value how effective is, like, Corki mid compared to an Azir is night and day for me, at least.
Right, and he's grown so much since the days of just ban LeBlanc, and that's kind of nuked Duck out of the picture. Those were the days where it was like, man, he's crushing everybody in scrims, but when it gets to the stage, doesn't seem to be happening because people are just ban him out. So, as you said, much wider champion pool, more comfortable as well on so many more champions when it comes to it. He's winning laning phases a lot better than he was before. Feels a lot more confident in the games.
Stepping away from the matchup, though, thinking about Steve, he had a good series so far. However, he fell behind against some of these niche picks from Whirlib. If he's matched up 1v1s against SOAS, I think bad things will happen for ROCCAT, so we might see a lot of lane swaps tomorrow.
And also what happened last time these two teams faced each other and ROCCAT managed to beat them, it was a lot about what Jankos and Vander could do together to shut down Mythi and Amazing. Because that suddenly saved Steve from a potential one-on-one, because now SOAS couldn't play aggressive because obviously he didn't have any vision control because that had been shut down. So a lot of fights going on all across the board here, but I definitely agree on SOAS being the stronger top laner right now compared to Steve, because he looked amazing.
A lot to think about, sorry, going into tomorrow's matchup. But in any case, with that win, ROCCAT are one step closer to Worlds 2015. As we talked about here already, their next challenge comes tomorrow as they face Origin in a 5-game set. And then after that, possibly, of course, the Unicorns of Love coming as well. Is it fair to say in this one that tomorrow's matchup will be a very big indicator of our seed?
I think so, because both teams from tomorrow's matchup will have an analyst that's gone, Unicorns of Love. Their picks and bans is predictable. We're comfortable facing against whoever. Unless somehow Unicorns have come up with something in the last week. I don't think you can learn Azir and Kalista in a week as a team, but that's not to count them out quite yet.
Yeah, I've seen Martin try. Takes definitely more than a couple of weeks to learn Kalista.
That Kalista, man. Too hard to play. Ban it.
Ban it away. But yeah, Unicorns, they were predictable. And in addition to that, the sheer amount of confidence you get, either it's Origin confirming that they can still beat the other teams, they can go ahead and probably take that series home. And if ROCCAT magically somehow win, well, then they'll have so much confidence and such good execution needed to do that, that they will likely beat the Unicorns. However, never rule them out. You know, Unicorns Fnatic sprint split. Everybody thought it was an easy sweep for Fnatic. Ended up going 5 games, so anything can happen.
Yes, even though Unicorns have looked a lot worse.
Right,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let's hype the ROCCAT Origin as much as we want. We need to see a lot more from Unicorns if they are going to win this. Either against Origin or ROCCAT, it doesn't even matter. We've seen enough from them. Same kind of pick and bans coming in, the same problems. But hey, I mean, Power Wheeler, maybe he's going to 1v5.
Maybe. We're going to have to see a lot from Origin, ROCCAT, or the UOL if they want to make it to World. And around the world, teams are securing their spots at the World Championships. Let's take a look at everything, or all the teams, rather, that have qualified already. Earlier today, of course, at the International Wildcard Tournament in Turkey, GPL's Bangkok Titans, they qualified for Worlds. They beat the Oceania's Chiefs in the final there, and a lot of teams from around the world starting to qualify.
Oh, it's filling up for Worlds. The road to Worlds is well underway. Korea locked in 2 teams today, as well as SK Telecom beat KT Rolster 3-0 in today's LCK Summer Finals for the #1 seed, meaning that the 2nd seed from LCK went over to the KOO Tigers on points.
But what a difference we saw between SKT and the rest of the teams over there. 3-0 in the final. KOO Tigers been looking fairly shaky, or at least inconsistent, we can call them in many ways. I'm looking at China, though. Like, LGG is already locked in. One of my, probably my favorite to win Worlds, as it looks right now. And then suddenly we're going to have 2 more teams coming who could potentially also win Worlds, because like the top of LPL right now is just insanely close.
Yeah, and EDG, the fact that they're still not locked in, guaranteed for Worlds is such a, a reverse miracle. Just a big question mark. Everybody expected them to sweep throughout the end of the season, but they've just like not been getting there. They've been struggling.
Doing,
and
man.
Some of their members even came out in alleged posts saying, yeah, we're not actually looking all that confident anymore. But whatever team makes it from China are definitely contenders for doing well at Worlds. I'm not gonna say just winning it. There's chances there. SKT,
I give it to LGG just as my person.
Yeah.
But the other teams, do well.
I believe QG is still in the race.
They are.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan personally of QG and their playstyle. So definitely looking forward to those matches. Definitely watch them. China is
your boy Swift, of course.
My boy Swift, that's what I always talk about. That guy can jungle. He can counter jungle, neutralize the enemy jungler. If you want to watch the series, I think it was against Kakao, where he did some great things. So Swift, fantastic jungler. Definitely check
Only
that
watch
out.
game 1 and 2 though if you want to see him dominate, because the next few games was...
No, game 3 he was down and he still played well.
Fine, game 3. Don't watch game 4.
Yeah, stop game 4.
Watch everything, come on.
Certainly a lot of hype for LPL and LCK's regional qualifiers. I believe LCK starts on Wednesday. That's KT Rolster, CJ Entus, Najin and Jinair. Jinair and Najin start that one off. off. So some hype games there. Friday is the LPL with EDG, Snake, QG, and IG, I believe it is. So those are some awesome, awesome games. So put them in your calendar because it's good. It's Worlds, Martin.
It's Worlds.
It's Worlds. It's
Soon
nearly
it's
Worlds.
Soon it's Worlds, not just yet. And then, of course, Saturday, we have our promotion tournament. So make sure to watch that one as well.
So much action, clear your calendars. But here in Europe, the regional qualifier will continue tomorrow, starting at 5 p.m. Central European Summer Time. That is 8 a.m. Pacific. Then we'll shoot it over to the North American LCS crew for their round 2 bout of the winner of today's match and Team Impulse. That will be Gravity or Cloud9, who's facing Team Impulse. A cheeky prediction.
I mean, Incarnation will take Cloud9 to the next round. You know, the hype is real.
I see it. I mean, you're so excited right now.
I'm so
Can't
excited.
spell hype without high.
But then Team Impulse will beat them, and that's it.
Yeah, both teams actually kind of took a dip. Well, Cloud9 took a dip throughout the entire season. Gravity took a dip towards the end, but it'll be hard. They always had a lot of time to practice and watch different regions. You know, 5.15 has been out a long time, so new picks can arise. Incarnation, if he feels comfortable in a patch, can be a fantastic player. So, yeah, maybe C9.
I mean, we haven't seen them play for such a long time. We don't really know. They've obviously been hiding a little bit like Giants, or even more, because we didn't even see them in quarterfinal.
Altex still is a fantastic AD carry too. You know, he escaped the crippled gravity chamber. Now he can show his true power, and he has throughout the split. So yeah, maybe he can do the darndest things for Gravity.
Well, we'll just have to see if Gravity is going to have a big effect on Cloud9 and rain on their parade.
All right, it's time to hand it over. I think this is a good setup also for our friends over in LA. We need to go on cooldown for the night, but it's time to send it over to Los Angeles, California for Cloud9 versus Gravity. Thank you so much for joining us for the first round of the 2015 regional qualifier, and we'll see you back here tomorrow as ROCCAT take on Origin.
It's time to load up for the first game of the 2015 European